My talk is on making lessons more engaging, because I found last week a lot of the blogs and the talks, they were all concentrating on saying that the education system needs to change and not really saying how to change it or how you're going to make the lessons more engaging. They're just saying that it needs to happen, which isn't really going to help if you can't actually do it. So when I was researching, I found probably the best and the easiest way to make lessons more engaging is to increase intrinsic motivation. So if you have high intrinsic motivation, you take pleasure in learning and you're engaged in the class, you want to take part and you want to learn more, so you're more likely to go away and do your independent learning and do the extra research and go that further mile because you're really interested in the topic itself. So some research on intrinsic motivation. So they found that if you have high intrinsic motivation, you're involved in the class and more engaged, but then you also want to develop the skills you're not very good at. So say if you're really engaged in an English class but you're really quite bad at writing, they'll be more likely to go back, go away and ask for help on how to improve their writing and how to improve it, so they, as an overall, their grade will get better and they'll be more motivated to do more. And DC Belcrandon Ryan said that people who have high intrinsic learning actually receive a higher quality of learning themselves, because they're doing the extra work and they're getting more information, which is obviously improving their studies, and they get a deeper understanding of the context because they're not just doing a surface learning, they're not learning the basics, they're going that extra mile and finding out all the other information. And Grotfield found there was a link between high IQ and academic anxiety and intrinsic motivation in younger children, and I found that this link develops and gets stronger as the children grow up more. So the more they become motivated and engaged, the higher their IQ gets and the lower their anxiety gets in class, and they're more likely to get up and give presentations and say what they feel in class and become involved in discussions and stuff. But then, taking into account intrinsic motivation, how do you actually incorporate this within classrooms itself? Because it's very well saying, we want the perfect student who's going to go out and do all this extra research, but how do you actually get students to that place where they want to be able to do this sort of thing? So Hemlow and Silver found that intrinsic motivation occurs more when students are given a choice. So they're told, you have to do an assignment on this thing, but you can do it on any aspect of it that you want to do. You can look at what makes it interesting, a bit like this module itself. You can pick out the bits that you are actually interested in and the bits you want to research. And then the teacher's there as a guide. So they'll guide you on the right track and they'll tell you if you're going really off track, but they're not going to sit there and give you all the information and spoon feed you and say, this is everything you need to learn for your exam. Here you go and learn it and come back and remember it all. They want you to actually go out and do it and have assignments with no right answers, so they're open to interpretation. So you're not just, I think this, but I'm not asked to write this because it's not the right answer they're looking for. They're assignments that you get extra marks for saying something that's different to everybody else. And then this all leads to a student having flexible thinking, important learning skills because they know how to learn, they've built the skills on how to do their independent learning. It leads to greater creativity and task engagement because they're enjoying it and they want to learn and they're doing the extra mile. So, improving intrinsic motivation. So, with having a big task like a dissertation, to keep students motivated for a long period of time doing it, you have smaller goals within a big goal, so it keeps them motivated to carry on and do more. Because if you say to someone, you've got 6 months to do this, people are I'll just be motivated in the last month and I'll do it then. But you actually have higher intrinsic motivation and learn more if you do it in smaller bursts, along the way, and you have smaller goals. So there are obviously some problems with both the data and with intrinsic motivation. So the data is correlational, it just says there's a link between high IQ and stuff, but it doesn't say whether actually it is intrinsic motivation that leaves you higher IQ, or people who have higher IQ have higher intrinsic motivation because they are more willing to learn because they like learning, because they're clever and they like getting stuff right, which is actually extrinsic motivation, which is completely different, which is doing something for the grade and doing something for an external outcome. And like I said before, it might be that they're naturally clever So I like doing stuff that I'm good at, and I don't like doing stuff I'm bad at, so I'm not going to work on that. Whereas like if you were intrinsically motivated, you should want to work more on the things you're bad at to bring them up to standard. So like doing well in lessons is extrinsic, so it kind of is a bit hard to increase intrinsic with like decreasing the extrinsic, because you want the students themselves to be motivated, not by grades and stuff. So to conclude, intrinsic motivation is enjoying learning and wanting to learn more, and you do this by having a choice in your assignments, and like your teacher's there to guide you and to like bring you along the right track without telling you what you have to do. So it's quite easy to implement in classrooms with like blogs, discussions. Assignments is like a really easy thing to do at any age. Going back to like your religious education, one way to increase the intrinsic motivation in that would be, well, you can go away and learn about a religion. You can pick whatever you want to do, learn about it and bring it back to class. Like that will make them more interested in it. So I believe that education system should concentrate on intrinsic motivation in a way to increase engagement. So any questions?
It's a really good idea, but how do you go about marking the child's knowledge if they're all learning different things? How do you go about grading?
You'd have to have like, it is obviously a lot more work for the teacher on that side, whereas it's not just, oh that's right, that's wrong. But there would be like set things they have to include, where not so much like, so it'd be like, okay, learn about a religion, and you have to know about like the marriage and divorce, say, within that religion, but you can do anything like within that realm. So as long as they're learning the right sort of things, get grades more on that than getting like the right answer as such.
Do you think it would work to say like, you know, children who aren't naturally they're not interested, they don't want to learn, like people who don't want to learn, that I assume that would be a really good way of like, you know, engage pupils who really want to learn and do well.
I think it would work more. I think it would work if you did it in the classroom and not so much for an assignment. So like if you researched in the classroom there and then had like a discussion on it, I think, and then something in the discussion would spark like, hopefully, some kind of motivation like within them, makes them want to do it and like become more involved.